Hey, how are you? My name is Michael, and as someone who has more than 20 years of studying the mental game, I want to share with you this framework on how to be more coachable. So, coachability, in my opinion, it comes down to two things. So, how do you take in new information? And then, how do you be solution oriented? So, taking in new information is like this ability to listen and observe. And it's like a state of being receptive to new information. It's kind of like what people call being open minded, right? And one way to do this is to practice the five don'ts, right? So don't do any of these five things and see what changes. So don't make excuses, don't complain, don't blame, don't get defensive, and don't discount the contributions that you make or the contributions that other make. So so really give it a try, right? See what happens when you don't do any of these five things. Right? So don't let these five things into your language. Don't make excuses, don't complain, don't blame, don't get defensive, and don't discount. So the process of taking in new information is essentially staying open, right? Seeing, well, what is the value of what's being said? What actually is being said? Staying present, actually understanding what's being said, making the change in yourself, learning, right? So essentially, taking in new information is the process of learning. And when you learn, you change, whether that's in a big way or in a small way. The next thing, the how to be solution oriented. So there's this idea that you don't naturally solve problems, but you do answer questions. So if you want to be good at problem solving, you have to find out which questions are worth asking at what time. And the first step of solving any problem is to be aware that there is something that needs resolving, right? And problems can exist on different levels, right? It could be a problem of thinking, a feeling of something not being the way that you would like it to be. There's a lot of different ways that something can be a problem. Something to be mindful of is to not make people into problems, right? Because people are not problems. Their behavior could be creating a problem. Their behavior might be taking away from the resolution, right? Their behavior might be some type of way that you don't like, but people are not problems. What they do might be, but they themselves, as a person, are not a problem. So I think that's a good thing to remember. And so then, as you're approaching problem solving, you can do the basic four questions. The basic four framework is that you ask, what's the problem? Oftentimes, when you ask what's the problem, you might get a fact. Like, this is the case, right? This is what it is. This is happening. This is the circumstance. This is what I don't like, right? So it's like, what is the problem? It might be I'm getting stuck in my head. I'm freezing at a important moment in time. I feel overwhelmed. I feel stressed. You can see how this is a statement of fact. It doesn't really give you much information as to how it's a problem for me. It just says, oh, this is a problem. But you don't know how it's a problem. So then the next step is you ask, how is this a problem for you? And you do it with, sincerity, right? Like actually wanting to know, especially when you're solving a problem for yourself. It's like, okay, well, what's the problem? How is this a problem for me? How is this a problem for you? And you might go beyond yourself and ask, how is this a problem for my team? How is this a problem for my coach? How is this a problem for my mom or dad or my brother or sister or my friend or um, the organization that you work for or the person who you're working with as a client, right? How is this a problem for them? And so that's the first two questions, right? What's the problem? How is this a problem for how is this a problem for you? And then the next two questions is how do you want things to be different? How do you want things to be different? So this gets you thinking about the solutions, about what you would like to be different. So if, as an example, if you have a messy desk and you ask yourself how you would like things to be different, well, then maybe you would like things to be organized. Even if it's still a bit messy, the books are all piled up together, the papers are all piled up together. So even though it looks a little bit messy still, it's a bit more organized. So that might be enough, right? Or it might be that the desk is completely clear all the time and it's only ever a little bit messy when you're actually working on a project and looking through papers actively. Otherwise, you put them where they belong, into a cabinet, into a folder system, whatever it is, right? So you can see how the answer to how you would like things to be different can be different based on how you would like them to be different. So, and if the problem is, well, I'm freezing at key moments in time, and how I would like things to be different could be that I would like to keep moving. I would like to stay present. I would like to keep processing information as the play is developing, right? Responding appropriately to the action, right? Looking for space, looking for quality plays, right? Quality passes, quality catches, quality positioning, these kinds of things, right? So you can see how you're already starting to get into this solution-oriented framework, the solution-oriented mindset. So then the last question of this basic four is, how will you know when things are different? So let's cover this briefly again. What's the problem? How is this a problem for you? How would you like things to be different? How will you know when things are different? So what will you use that tells you the evidence, the supportive evidence, the kind of thing that proves to you that things are different, right? What criteria will you have that tells you that something has changed, that things are different, that you've made progress toward the solution? And that kind of criteria awareness is essentially what solution orientation is too, because you start thinking of like, okay, well, this won't be a problem when the team plays as a collective. There's group harmony. And even if there's conflicts, it's resolved easily because everyone's invested in the team growing and improving and getting to the championships and so on and so on, right? Whatever the specific goals might be for you, for your team, for your organization, um, for the people in your life that you care for, like, thinking good thoughts about everyone involved, right? And kind of having this idea of like with good to all involved, with good to all involved. So, so that's a little bit on how to become more coachable, right? So you want to be able to take in new information, staying present, and you want to be solution oriented. If you'd like more on how to be more coachable, let me know in the comments below and I can expand on some ideas. If you have specific questions, also let me know. If you haven't already, check out my book, Mental Skills Training Manual, Winning the Mental Game. It's available on Amazon. Thank you for watching, and I'll see you on the next video.